Welcome to Section 3, Implementing Basic AI for NPC Movement. In this section, we're going to take a look at creating an AI controller and input action for controlling our NPC's movement. We'll also be implementing responses to our mouse input through some visual feedback in the UI. And finally, we'll be implementing and utilizing our AI controller to have our NPC's path to a desired location. Video 3.1, Creating an AI controller and input action for controlling NPC movement. In this video, we're going to take a look at creating a custom AI controller to help control movement for our infantry units. Then we'll set our infantry unit character class to use the new AI controller. And finally, we'll create an input action to use for giving commands to units. In Unreal Engine 4, whenever we want a pawn to move by itself, which we will in our RTS game, we'll want to be able to select a unit and tell it somewhere on our map to go. And in order to facilitate the unit moving from a location to another and be able to make smart decisions about where it can run to and how to get to a specific location, we need to use an AI controller as well as a navigation mesh. So we'll be doing this and setting these things up over the next couple videos. In this video, we need to first create an AI controller to use with our pawns that are infantry units. So we can do this by creating a blueprint class. So we'll go to Add New, and we are in our Content Top-Down BP Blueprints folder. So we can add new blueprint class, and we actually want to search in our all classes. I'm going to search for AI Controller. I'm going to click that to select that as our parent class, and click Select. And let's go ahead and name this our basic unit underscore AI controller. Now we're actually going to leave the default settings for our AI controller at this time, but we can go ahead and double click this to open it up and see what it looks like. So once we have this open, so this looks like any other blueprint. However, we're not, at least at this time, going to put any code or anything in this. So we can actually, once we've opened this blueprint, we can actually close it and reopen it again. And when we do that, we'll actually open the collapsed editor. So this is just going to show us the defaults for this particular class, because the editor can tell that we don't have any custom code in here. So these actions and different settings are the default settings for an AI controller. So we're going to leave these alone for now, but a couple things of interest that you may want to expand your knowledge upon later is these AI classes up here. So we're going to leave it at the default of stop all logic on unpossess. In this particular case, we're not going to get to handling possession unpossession in this RTS game because we're not taking direct control of any of our units. Another thing that could be interest to you is this perception component. So this is something that you can add to your AI controller to further develop the capabilities of a particular unit. So we're going to go ahead and close this. Now that we've made this, though, we still need to tell our infantry character that this is the particular AI controller that we want it to use. So how to do that is to go ahead and open our infantry character blueprint class. This is, again, in our Content Top-Down BP Blueprints folder. Go ahead and double-click to open that. And we want to be clicked or highlighted in the Components tab, this infantry car self. What this allows us to have access to is the default for this particular class in the Details panel. Or you can just click the Class Defaults button to also get access to this panel. So we want to scroll down into the Pawn section. And in here, there's one setting we want to change. We want to say AI Controller Class. Right now it says AI Controller, which is the default base class. We want to go ahead and change this to our basic unit AI Controller. And what this allows us to do is later, if you decide to add more additional things to this AI controller, then it's already set up and ready to go. And we're also not using the base class, but using our own custom class that'll be much easier to modify in the future. So let's go ahead and click Compile and Save for this particular blueprint. And actually, if we go back into our content browser, let's go ahead and click Save All. That way we'll also not only save our AI controller, but we can also save our level, any modifications we've made there. Now that we've set up our AI controller and we've actually set it to our character, as that is the AI controller to use, we need to now move on to the next thing we need to do, which is to actually create an input action so that we can give commands to our unit. So I'm going to go back into our Project Settings tab. This is Edit Project Settings if you're on Mac OS. If you are on Windows, the access to the project settings will be in the menus above your tabs. Now that we have this project settings open, let's go into Input. And we want to open Action Mappings. We have our action mappings from previous videos that we've set up. We want to add a fourth one. And this fourth one down here, we're going to rename this as Action. And I'm going to bind the right mouse button to it. Now the reason we're only doing one mapping here for our right mouse button is that we want our UI and user experience to be very simple in terms of when I select a character, I can very quickly just right click somewhere and this will perform an action. Now later we'll be setting up, in this section, we'll be setting up being able to right click and have units move to a particular location on the screen. But later we'll be adding more functionality that will all use this single action event to do different things, so that we have a very singular interface for the player to be able to go and be able to left click to select things and then right click to be able to provide actions. Things like moving as well as attacking. So last thing I always like to mention is there's no save button inside of project settings. That's because anything modified in project settings is automatically saved by the editor. If you want to back up these settings, you can use the export and import options. Export will allow you to export these options as an INI file, and you can also import them into another project at a later time, or in a totally different project if you'd like to. So that's actually it for this video. Just a few things we need to get out of the way to set up what we'll be doing over the next couple videos, which is going to be implementing some UI feedback for this mouse input. So when we click our action button, we're getting some UI coming up on screen in our game world to let the player know that they have interacted with the game world.